Ladies, gentlemen, and nightfarers of all ages, the shifting Earth system in Elden Ring Nightreign is cool for a number of different reasons, but especially Noklateo, the Shrouded City. One of the reasons for this one, specifically at least, is that it is entirely set in stone. Unlike the rest of the map, which is a revolving set of seeds, swapping up which camps are where, which enemies are in each camp, and stuff like that from one expedition to the next, Noklateo stays the same every single time it exists on your map. When we first looked into these shifting Earths at the release of the game, both us and a bunch of other people completely misinterpreted the true usefulness of this event. A lot of people thought it was skip fully on day 1, then come back to Noklateo on day 2 to just bum rush to Astel specifically, get your legendary weapon, get the free revive, maybe duplicate a weapon, and then head back on your way to the rest of the world. But today, I'm going to show you exactly why that's the wrong way to treat the Shrouded City, and in 2 different ways. The first way is how to get a guaranteed legendary on day 1, early on day 1 as well, which, before we dive into, as a disclaimer, this isn't consistent. It's not something that you'll do on every run, and realistically, while you can do it with other Nightfarers, the only one who gives you the best shot is Iron Eye. So with all those caveats in mind, you can get a guaranteed legendary day 1. The second strat we'll be talking about a bit later on, which is the real meat and potatoes because it can change every single expedition that you do that has this shifting Earth active. It is a more proper routing that brings you through the entirety of Noklateo, all of the goodies, all the good enemies that are worth killing, letting you spend the majority of your expedition time within the city's walls. It lets you kill a load of bosses, get multiple really high rarity dormant power drops with potential for multiple legendaries, and so many runes that you can easily hit level 15 and then even have 200,000 runes to spare at the end of the run, which I did without even going out of my way to hit these impressive numbers. Point being, this first thing that we're about to talk about at the beginning is more for the flashiness of it all and to show that it is technically possible, but the real recommendation that I have for most players comes later on. First up then, the guaranteed legendary, just to show you how it is, how it's possible. How are we doing this then? We are killing Astel on day 1. That may sound tricky, but it gets trickier. Because of how shifting Earth affects the positioning of the night circles in an expedition, the circle that shows up in the middle of day 1 will never ever have Noklateo in it, at least not the part of it that has Astel. It can have chunks of Noklateo, just not the whole thing. Because the circle in day 2 always will, and the game is programmed to not have the circle on day 1 be in the same place as the circle on day 2. Astel specifically is on the very edge of the map on the southwestern side, so this means that you basically have until the circle closes into that room to get the kill done on Astel, or you have to wait until day 2. You have about 4.5 minutes after spawning into the map until the circle begins to exist and starts to close. Then you have about 30 seconds past that before the circle is properly in Astel's cathedral area, making the boss fight even tougher. So realistically, that gives you right around 5 minutes from when you first spawn to then kill Astel, which is a very tight window. When spawning with Noklateo active, you will always land at a camp that is either beside this grace to the northwest or this grace to the south in the middle. The grace in the northwest is just too far away. It's further away, and even with perfect pathing, you get to Astel about 20 seconds further away than the other spawn option. You are 20 seconds slower, and that is enough to end the concept. That is enough of a discrepancy that you just can't do it anymore. So you need to spawn at the south grace to even consider running this strategy. From there, you need a ranged weapon of some sort ideally. Iron Eye starts with a bow, so that helps a lot, but a lot of the things that are in the first camp that you start with can drop bows, and sometimes they even have bow racks. Kill the enemies in the first camp until you have exactly 4,000 runes. Being above that is okay, but being below that is just not enough. Spending excess time killing these guys means less time that you have for killing Astel. Collect all the loot in the camp, especially consumables, as trying to kill a big boss this low level can be made way easier with stuff like greases or pots or stuff like that. And then once both of these conditions have been filled, start running directly to Noklateo's bridge entrance. Climb on up, and now we are heading to the right side. Climb up here and then over this ledge to avoid aggroing the hanging larval falling star beast earlier than necessary. Then progress up the stairs and climb onto this roof for your first safe spot from the flying rocks. Wait for the gap in between the volleys of rocks, then climb up to this next rooftop safe spot, and after the gap in shots again, you want to hop up and fire your ranged weapon at the larval falling star beast. If the enemy hits 70% of its health bar, it will disappear and you get 20,000 runes practically for free. If you have Rain of Arrows as a weapon Ash of War, you can actually fire it safely from the spot behind the roof as well, otherwise you do have to hop up in between rock waves to get the job done. Usually without Rain of Arrows, this takes 2 sets of volleys to do for me, then we continue to climb up the path. On the right is a dead body here that always has decent loot, like a blue weapon or some good consumables which can help. Sometimes I've even had a drop of purple. Then you keep climbing up and going forwards to find a Site of Grace after you cross a little bit of a gap, and at this grace you can level up to 4 immediately. Then you want to take a left like this to go up the bridge, and you will see another crossable, jumpable gap to hop over. Follow this to the end and you will pop out right beside Astel's actual boss room. Head in, and if you did this path efficiently, this should have taken you right around 3 minutes, which leaves you right around 2 minutes for the actual boss fight. This is where it gets a bit trickier though, because 90% of the attacks that Astel can do will one-shot you at this level. A couple of them won't, but most of them will. Part of Iron Eye being great for this is his on-demand iframes, especially if you have a relic that gives you a second charge of his character's skill. As well, Astel is often awkward to hit with melee weapons, but not that bad with a bow, and is actually weaker to piercing damage type than any other type, which bows are doing as well. From here, you basically just have to stay as aggressive as possible to keep the damage up without getting one-shot by the boss. You need to stay within your maximum damage range so the projectile drop-off doesn't hurt you, and keep your mark applied to Astel to increase your own damage. I don't want to underplay this by any means. It is very challenging, and you have to play near perfectly for the entire 5 minutes from spawn to get this done properly. But it is absolutely possible, and if you do get it, then you get Astel's drop 5 minutes into the first day. You can be like level 9 because of the massive amount of runes that Astel drops as well, and I believe that Astel's drop is actually a guaranteed legendary. It might be like 90% chance or something like that, but I have seen a legendary every time I've done it. I've had my friends have a legendary every time they've done it, so if nothing else, it's an insanely high rate, if not completely guaranteed. You can then also grab the power that's in the chest, which gives you an extra free revive guaranteed, and then you can start running if the circle is already closing in on you, or if you want to get fancy, maybe even sacrifice a level through death for it, you can go and duplicate your legendary to have a second of the same weapon. For a quick reference of why this matters, if you get Grafted Blade Greatsword or Mariah's Executioner Blade from this, you may not be able to use them until level 10, which you won't be quite yet, but you can definitely start scaling your stats with their passive effects. All that said, this is a strategy that I wanted to point out because it can be done, and if you can do it successfully, it sets you off for an extremely successful expedition. But I wouldn't call that a reliable strat by any means. I wouldn't call that something I'd say a regular player should do, especially as it's basically only applicable to one character and requires a fair bit of RNG. That said, I'd never leave you with just that, so now let's talk about what we're really here for, which is how to get the most out of Noklateo over an entire expedition on any Nightfarer, whether you're in a group doing multiplayer or if you're solo, it doesn't matter. Most people avoid Noklateo until day 2, but there is a ton in here that you can do on day 1 that is actually quite valuable to do and honestly feels balanced for day 1. Specifically, if you take the right path up to the roofs instead of the left path down to the sewers, basically we're going the same way as our speedrun to Astel in the first strategy, at least to begin with. Once you enter the city, which you can comfortably do at level 2, head up the right side, then you want to run up to this roof over here while some rocks are fired at you and climb up it to the next safe spot in between the rock shots. Then if any of your party members has a ranged weapon or ranged damage of any kind, you can take out the hanging larval falling star beast for a large and free bundle of runes for the entire party. Head up the ledges here to find a corpse that often has a blue, sometimes even purple weapon inside of it, and it also will have some nice consumables as well generally. Then you want to progress up some more and across this gap to find a Site of Grace where you can level up again. From here, you want to head forwards and jump off the ledge like so. Then if you look down to this little sort of inlet of a sewer, you will see some basilisks, but if you get closer, a Royal Revenant boss will spawn. This guy does a fairly large bit of damage if he hits you, but he is very squishy, so take him a little bit cautiously, don't let him catch you off guard, but you can dump his health bar pretty quick and get your first dormant power and pile of runes. Then you want to head west to this lower sort of pillory area where you'll find a Black Knife Assassin waiting for you just around the corner. Defeat them for another more powerful dormant power, and I often see purples from this one specifically, sometimes even full-on legendary weapons from this Black Knife Assassin, even at level 5. As for difficulty, both of these bosses feel fine fine at level 4 or 5, this really isn't that challenging of a thing to do in this way. At this point, the circle will likely begin to form, so time is of the essence, and if you climb up to the left behind where the assassin was waiting, then drop down to your right here, you will find a spirit stream. Use it to jump up to the roof of this area, and then head down this staircase on the roof, and there's a mausoleum knight you probably want to kill, but beside him is a chest that contains a minimum of a purple dormant power. This also has a reasonable chance of having a legendary in it as well. From here you want to head out and then just go towards the main cathedral of the city. You're looking to go towards the Astel boss room. You get to the site of grace in the sort of gazebo area, and this should leave you with just enough time to take out the 2 mausoleum knights on the staircase outside of Astel's room. You won't be able to go into Astel's room, the circle will already be there, but you can fight these 2 guys. The one on the right drops a dormant power when defeated, but both of them are worth a fairly large pile of runes. At this point the circle is probably very close to you, so you want to level up at the grace and then start to leave the city. Spend the rest of day 1 doing things like going to churches to get more flask charges, or going to camps that have an affinity that matches the Night Lord's weakness. Maybe even Everjails if you're in a group and you guys are running the Everjail relic, but this strategy in general sort of makes the Everjails not necessary if you do it right and if you stick to it. Doing this puts you to level 7 before you have the first ring closed in quite comfortably, and depending on the choices that you make on the rest of the day, you can easily be level 12 before day 2, which is really solid pacing. Then on day 2, your goal is still that legendary weapon from Astel, so we want to bum rush back to Noklateo. It's worth noting, if you are uncomfortable with your current amount of flash charges, you can always hit up a church or 2 on the way back to Noklateo, as the final circle will always include the Shrouded City. But our main goal is to get as powerful as possible as quickly as we can. That said, when you get back to Noklateo on day 2, this time we take the left side path towards the sewers. If you have a ranged weapon, you can kill the hanging larval falling star beast for another pile of pretty free runes, then head into the sewers themselves. Follow this path around until you can drop down like so on the right and head in for a spirit stream. Then you can take this up to a site of grace, and in front of you out here is a headless troll boss in the little pond that you can kill for another dormant power and pile of runes. Then head back and continue up the stairs to find another Black Knife assassin that you can kill for another dormant power and another pile of runes. If you have a weapon that you already want to duplicate, you know it's perfect for you, you can do it from the alleyway where the Black Knife assassin appeared, go back through, take a left into this little room, and you can duplicate any weapon. Or if you don't know what you want yet, you can come back here after doing Astel to duplicate hopefully a legendary drop from that creature instead. That said, you are now at the proper step, which is doing Astel itself. If the rest of the run went well up to this point, you can easily enter here at level 13 with decent equipment, and you can take Astel down surprisingly easy as a result, and quite quickly too. Then you want to make sure that you grab the Dragonkin Soldier boss in the main waterfall exit as well, because he's pretty valuable, and with that, Noklateo, at least on the inside, is fully completed. If you have time left before the circle closes in, this is when you'd want to go and collect more churches again, or do some field bosses that are out of range, and it's worth noting that the field boss directly outside the north part of Noklateo is always Loretta, and the field boss directly outside the east side of the city is always the Flying Dragon of the Hills. So these are also nice targets that are often within the safety circle that appears halfway through day 2. All in all, these are 2 separate strategies for Noklateo, one of which is very tough to pull off but extremely rewarding if you do, and the other one is much simpler, and honestly it feels like the intended way of tackling this event in the first place. There is so much loot, it's a great sort of pace of progression through here that feels quite natural, and just incredibly good leveling speed as well. Noklateo may remove the castle from the center of the map, but you can easily get the same amount of total runes as if you even had a Crucible Knight castle, if you actually properly give your time to Noklateo and go at it from both sides on both days. This just about does it for today then, everyone. I hope you've enjoyed this, and hopefully it helps you out on future expeditions in Elden Ring Nightreign. Like if you liked the video, subscribe to the notification bell for more, and most importantly, ladies and gentlemen, until next time, stay sweet.
Josh, Cotton, and Hollow with the videos, dropping the humor like a hammer on your tippy toes, bringing entertainment on a daily arrangement to take our insanity and turn it into entertainment. Yes, I said entertainment twice, to reiterate that it is nice to look into your faces on a mostly daily basis when you let us in your homes to make the whole world a stage. Goodbye.